uploaded. All right, so again, this is the bucket.io frequently asked question webinar. And what we'll do, as always, at the end of this call, I will invite you to schedule a one-on-one call with a bucket specialist, and not just a bucket specialist, because you can, I mean, you know, it's not about just fixing a bucket issue like tech support. These calls are basically success calls to get you constantly moving forward, getting your campaigns up and running, getting your funnels to where you can start sending some traffic, generating some leads. So let's call it the one-on-one success call. At the end of this webinar, I will be giving you guys a link to get on the schedule for that. It's totally free for you. And so let's jump right into this first question here. Actually, you know what? Why don't I do this? I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what all the questions are, so that what you can do, if you don't see your question in there, you can go ahead and write it down and kind of know what you want to ask. So the first question that we're going to look at is, what's the difference between discovery and segmentation? Then we're going to look at how field logic works. Then I'm going to show you how to add a custom domain. This is a question that comes up quite a bit. How do I integrate with my ESP directly? Because we offer direct integration with MailChimp, Infusionsoft, and Entreport currently. How do I integrate using ZAPIER for everyone else who has a different email provider? I'll show you, kind of the quick answer to how to do that integration. How do I use multiple lead capture pages? I'll show you that in the segmentation funnel tool. And then again, like I said, after that, then we'll get into your guys' questions. So like I said, feel free to throw those questions over here in the chat box. And as soon as we get through these questions, and if you have questions about any of the questions that we're covering, feel free to ask those, and I'll be happy. I'm going to actively, this is one of those calls where I will actively be in the chat, just kind of watching and seeing what goes on. So the big idea, again, like I said before, is to make sure you get your questions answered, all right? So the biggest question I get is, what's the difference between discovery and segmentation? And the answer to that question is, it's really simple. For Discover surveys, for discovery, it's a survey, right? And let me jump over here. And in a Discover survey, what you're looking at doing is getting one answer from one person, as complete of an answer from your person as possible, so that you can go in and analyze that stuff later, right? Come up with what segments should you be using in your list or in your audience marketing. What language are they using? Let me pull up a Discover survey real quick, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So one example of a Discover survey is here. Why don't I just give you guys a link so you can see this? One example of a Discover survey is the webinar links that we send out. So every time we send you a link to get on a webinar, we're giving you something, right? We're giving you access to a webinar, some training to help you use our system to do better business. And as part of that, what we always want to know is, how can we better help you? And so eventually you'll be wanting to run the surveys to your own audience. And so what a Discover survey lets you do is basically just ask the questions, right? And then once you've asked those questions, we show you how to analyze what these people are telling you, right? So basically, once you've started filling out these surveys and telling us, how can we help you, then we could go in and start kind of looking at, how are you, what words are you using, what are you asking for, what do you need help with, where can we adjust our training and our resources to make sure that when you're using Bucket, you're getting the most out of it, right? And so that's kind of how you would look at a Discover survey. So in your marketing, you would find out, from your customers how you could best serve them, basically the same way that I just showed you we do it here, right? We have the opportunity to go in and really read what issues you might be having, and you're able to do the same. So does that make sense? So the Discover survey is about finding out what issues, what problems, what language your audience has for you that you can come around and solve. Now, what a segmentation funnel does is, I'm going to jump back over to one here in a second, if I can get this thing to load. So what happens now is in a segmentation funnel, what you're doing is instead of trying to understand your market, now you're basically showing your market that you do understand who they are by asking them the right questions, right? So for instance, let's pull up, here's one right here. Actually, you know what? I have a couple of sample links. Why don't I show you one of these? Because there's some really good ones from people who definitely did the survey in the beginning. I'm just going to copy this and paste it over here. Oops. All right, so here's an example of a segmentation funnel. This is someone that uses a questions-based approach in their front-end marketing. So what they're not using the segmentation funnel is to gather information about their audience, to understand how to talk to them. What they're doing is they're asking questions so that they can lead the prospect, the audience, as you will, to the correct solution, right? So as you go through and answer, I don't know how I got this thing so minimized. So as you start answering questions about, in this case, your Jack Russell, your pet, this segmentation funnel is putting you in a bucket, for lack of a better, I mean, that is the best word, really, is they're segmenting you and putting you in a bucket so that they can give you the absolute best solution for your pet. So in order to get to this, the level to where they could build a segmentation funnel like this, they had to start by asking the questions, right? So that they could gain the insight and know what answer to give later on in a segmentation funnel. So that's how the two work together, right? Discovery, you use it kind of to start building that knowledge, to understand that insight. And then the segmentation funnel is where you take what you've learned and ask the questions to drive your audience to the correct solution. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm going to pull up here, make sure everyone is on the same page. Yes, yes, it makes sense. Awesome. Does it not make sense to someone? Makes sense to you. Awesome. John, thank you. Perfect. Makes sense to me. Awesome, Ferris. Great. So I'm going to, so that is the difference between a segmentation funnel and a discovery. So I always tell, and how I always find out whether someone should be doing a segmentation or a survey is I just ask them straight up, hey, what segment, what outcomes, what segments are you currently marketing to? Or are you planning on marketing to? And if they can't tell me that, I'm like, well, hey, why don't you run a Discover survey? And because that ultimately turns out what they need to do is run a Discover survey to understand what those segments are so that they can build that segmentation funnel, right? So if you've got like a list that's like a giant blob and you're not even sure who they are and what they do or what they would, what they could possibly, like if you're not sure what even segments could possibly be in your list or in the audience that you currently market to, I would say do a Discover survey. If you already know what those things are, like if you've got like certain products that you sell to certain types of people, and at that point you probably don't need to run a survey. You probably need to build a segmentation funnel first, right? So that's how I typically decide when I'm talking to somebody which tool they should be using. Cool. So the next question that we have in our frequently asked questions list is, how does field logic work? A lot of times you can get away with, instead of using a big branching logic segmentation funnel, you can use what's called field logic instead. And what field logic means basically is being able to take what somebody has said or chosen, a response that they've given earlier in either the funnel or in the Discover survey, and repeat it back to them so that you're able to dial your question in even more. Has anyone on here actually used field logic in your segmentation funnel or in your Discover surveys? John has. Cool. Anybody else besides just John? Yep. All right. Well, you know what, John? You are one of a kind then. So what I'll do now is show you guys how it actually works. Fair, don't worry, I'll explain the concept. So, okay, so you guys understand what I mean is by field logic is here, I'm gonna do it on a Discover survey, and then I'll do it on a segmentation funnel so you can see how you would use it in both kind of instances. So we've got this here. I'm gonna make a copy of this. This is a Discover survey that I'm making a copy of. And so what I do on this survey is, in fact, I'll be giving you guys the link to this here in a little bit for the one-on-one calls. This is a one-on-one call survey. So what I typically do is I'll just ask, hey, what part of Bucket have you struggled with the most? So I know, kind of help you on the call. What I'll do now is, instead of asking that question first, I'm going to switch the question to be, are you enrolled in the ask method? All right. And what I'll do is I'm going to jump over into configure. I'm going to change this real quick while I'm thinking about it. And I'm going to go to field logic. And you see this question where it says, are you enrolled in the ask method? So I create a field here. I'll just call it ask, right? And then where it says yes, I'll type an ask method, or and where it says no, I'll put non-ask method. And then I'll save these changes. And then I'm going to come back over to build. And then what I'm going to do here is where it says, so I know how to help you in our call as ask, what part of bucket.io have you struggled the most? So check this out. So watch what happens when I hit save and we go up to preview. And it says, are you enrolled in the ask method? And I say yes. So I know how to help you in our call as an ask method. So what I need to do is actually go add something on there. So like as an ask method student, probably, right? I'm going to do that now. Configure. You only get so many characters per field, so you want to make sure you get it boiled down to exactly what you want it to say. And hit save change. And now let's go back over here and do a quick refresh. And so now it says, are you enrolled in the ask method? So I know how to help you on our call. As an ask student, what part of bucket.io have you struggled with the most? So now what I can expect is more ask method. Like, does it match up? Is it helping you along your training and the ask method? And if you chose no, as a non-ask user, what part of bucket.io have you struggled with the most? I probably wouldn't need to use it so much here, but this is just so you can understand. Like, now that I'm looking at it, I probably wouldn't want to ask somebody that on the in this question. It doesn't make this question better. But as you can see, you could totally, if you're struggling with the best question and getting a real dialed in question based on the different types of users who are coming to your survey, you can always throw in a question before to help dial in what that question is going to be, because you can take what they give you and include that in the question that you're asking. So does that help you understand it better now, Ferris? Kind of? A little bit? Is anybody else confused? Because I want to, again, it's a very powerful tool that you can use to make your survey questions like super pointed and get better responses, but it also helps when you're using it in a segmentation funnel to let people know they're not just answering dumb questions, that they're going to get the same dumb response at the end, right? That you want it to feel like they're actually being understood. In fact, I think this Jack Russell one does that. Let's do this. I'm going to do a reset on this just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Is your Jack Russell male or female? Is it a rescue? Let's see, 1 to 3 years old. Okay, you see here, is your rescue a purebred or a mix? So when we said it was a rescue, now we're asking the question if we're asking, is it a pure breed or a mix? But we're using the word rescue so they know we're paying attention, right? And then here we go again. Male adult Jack Russells typically engage in the following behavior problems. So now they're letting you know, based on what you told them, that you're the smartest person in the room, right? You know what they're dealing with. You're able to take what they gave you and give them, and all he's doing in this case is just changing the way he's asking the same question with the same responses. Because all the responses are going to be the same, but he's asking it based on what you told them, right? So that you get, you're more likely to go in and answer it and believe what they're telling you. So then we just typed in leash pulling problem. So Jack Russells with the leash pulling problem tend to have one of these personality traits. See what's happening here? I just chose go with the flow, and now he's using what you told him in the last question to help you really dig in and understand and give them better answers to the question. So, and all they're doing in this case is just using what's called the field logic. They're not doing a big branching logic. It's just basic field logic, as simple as coming in and creating these fields, and then pulling them up in the build, in the question itself. Is this making sense? Yes, awesome. You got it. Perfect. Here, Ferris says, now I understand the field logic helps you provide a response that is customized to whatever responses a person leaves in a survey or the segmentation funnel. Yes, that's absolutely correct. You got it. Can you see how that would be extremely useful if you're building especially one of these longer surveys or longer segmentation funnels? This really helps keep the person moving, because like I said, it doesn't feel like some halfway, half-cocked thing that they're just answering questions just to become a lead. It feels like they're answering questions that is going to give them a real solution at the end of it. And that's what makes it so powerful. And that's why, getting people to understand how to use it and actually use it in your funnels and in your surveys is such a big deal. All right, so it looks like we got we got how does field logic work. Now we want to take a look at how do I add a custom domain. I get this a lot. It's a recent addition, and it's something that I think is very important for people to use, because as you start advertising, especially your segmentation funnels, and you go out on Google, you go on Facebook, or really anywhere, any advertising platform, you're going to want to use your own domain, right? Maybe even in some emails, when you start doing marketing emails, you'll want to be using your own domain versus like go.bucketsurvey.com or go.bucketforums.com, right? And to add your own custom domain, it's really simple. It really is. All you've got to do is click on Settings. Over here it says, on the left, it says Custom Domains. And then, and I wouldn't say this if it wasn't absolutely critical. You want to go through the setup instructions and set it up while you go through it. So you'll come in here, access the custom domain section, which you've already done. Then you want to go configure your domain. Now, whether you use GoDaddy, I use Namecheap, but there's obviously millions of them out there, right? So whichever hosting company you're using for your domain, you'll want to go in, log in as the administrator of the registrar, access your list of domains, choose the domain that you want to configure, and then go to it's called the Domain Name Server Settings, DNS settings. And in the configure section of the A records, and guys, if you don't know how to do this stuff for your registrar, like if you use GoDaddy, or if you use Namecheap or 1-in-1 or The Planet, or I don't know, whoever you use. Who do you guys use for domain hosting? Does anybody have one that I didn't rattle off just now? Anybody? GoDaddy for you? Yeah. So what you'll do, if you just can't figure it out, like you can't find out where to go to the configure section of the A records, 99% of every domain company I've ever worked with has a live chat, right? I mean, those companies are typically very large, or a hosting companies. They're typically large and they have a chat that you just ask them, hey, where do I go configure the A records? And then they'll tell you, and then all you've got to do is paste in this IP address, save your changes, and then you'll come back over to Bucket where it says Add Custom Domain. Click on that, put your domain name in. Don't do www or HTTP or any of that. Just put the domain in. And then check this box that says I have followed the domain setup instructions. Hit Save and Verify. And then what Bucket will do is they'll go check it out, make sure it's all good, and then within 24 hours, all the propagation and all that will be complete. And what you can do from there is, I'm going to hit cancel on this. What you can do from there is access that domain. Do I have any? Oh yeah, here we go. You can access that domain on your publish screen. So when you go to publish, where it says select domain, instead of choosing one of the Bucket ones, you'll choose the domain that you added. And what happens is, here, I'm just going to hit publish real quick so you can see. What happens is you get this link that uses your domain with the little code kind of at the end of it, so they'll know exactly where to take your specific survey or your segmentation funnel. And so you can take that and go put it on Facebook ads. Go take it and put it on AdWords or Google Display Network or Bing or anything like that, and you'll have your own domain so that you can do that marketing. Does that make sense? Yep, that's right. Awesome. Good. I'm glad you guys are on the same page here. So that's, I mean, it really is. You can have it done. It takes, I've done it a few times, and I think the longest it's ever taken me is like 15 minutes where I just couldn't figure out where the A record thing was in one of the registrars. Chris asked, what would be the advantage of having a unique domain name for your funnel? There's a couple. Number one, it just looks more pro, right? Number two, AdWords, like if you're gonna run ad like search ads on AdWords or Bing, you have to have it. Like you can't use a domain that other people are using on their platforms. And I think even with Facebook, I think your ads perform better I know you're going to quote me on that because we're actually recording me saying that, but I think it does come down to a lot of it is domain related, right? So you don't want to be in a situation where you're using a domain, basically that hundreds of other people are using. If you can have one that's your own. So, and on most of those ads too, it actually, you have to say the domain it's from. So it would say, literally on your ad, it would say bucket pages versus whatever your domain is. So it's, again, it's just about, it's about marketing, right? And also another thing too is if you're doing stuff for client work, and you can even use your own domain for them. So it looks like, again, it's totally white label. There's a million, like I said, there's a bunch of reasons why. Those are some good ones, though. Any other questions on custom domains? Like, has anyone tried to do it and it didn't work for you? Okay, good. Doesn't look like anyone. Like I said, it typically, when I've ever seen someone try to do it and it didn't work, is because they didn't actually set the A record. They set like another record on the domain. That's literally all I've ever seen that's caused it not to work. All right, so let's jump into how do I direct integrate my email service provider, my email marketing platform. Okay, so this one's also super simple, and I think it's getting a lot easier. There have been some hiccups on some of the things, but let me walk you guys through how to actually, first of all, how to do the connection. So if you've got MailChimp, Infusionsoft, or Ontraport, this topic is for you. Okay, if you've got anything else, we're going to get to yours here in a second when we talk about Zapier. All right. So for MailChimp, what you have to do is whichever one you want to do, you'll just drag that one over here. You can only add one. So what I'm going to do is come over here to MailChimp, and you're going to go grab your API key for MailChimp, and it's real simple. It's in the personal settings. It's easy to find it, especially if you can just hit on the help and find API key there. So once you do that, you hit save, and you can start using your MailChimp inside your segmentation funnels or your discover surveys. Same with Infusionsoft. If you add Infusionsoft, they'll ask you for the API key and then your custom URL. And if you use Infusionsoft, you know what I'm talking about. Ontraport, same thing. You just go to the API section, and they'll give you an API key and an API ID. Just be careful. When you grab the API key, it's actually the one on the second one. It's kind of backwards. So make sure the API key goes in the API key goes in the API key spot, and the API ID goes in the API ID spot. I only bring that up because I did it wrong, personally. And it was like, I was like, why is this not working? And of course, I looked like a total idiot when they said, oh, you put it in the wrong spot. So let my embarrassment be your gain. So that's how you add them in. So Ferris asks, there's no need to use Zapier with bucket.io if you have Infusionsoft, because you have the direct integration. That's correct. Now, once you have this added in, right, now you want to apply it to either your discover survey or your segmentation funnel. And here's how you do that. We'll just jump over here into segment. What I'll do is, so once you're in the segment, so to do the integration, you do it like before. You come over here in the configure, and then where it says direct integrations, you'll click on this, and then you'll choose the integration that you plan to use. So since I have a couple of different email providers attached to my account, I have these options. For this one, I'll just do MailChimp. And then what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll select the list that I want the leads for this quiz to go into. I only have one list on there anyways. And then what I'll do is I'll take each field for the lead capture field and I'll choose where I want that to be mapped. On this quiz, I only ask for the email address, so that only gives me email address, right? And so I map that to the email field in MailChimp. And then I'll do the tag mapping. And so to add tags, what I'll do is I'll select a question. So in this case, I ask quarterback, right? And so for Eli Manning, I will choose, I would have a field inside of MailChimp called quarterback, right? And we'll just do birthday for this one. So, for my quarterback, I would have Eli, Dak, Rodgers, Brady. All right, and so what happens is, again, we have to kind of pretend that, because I don't have this exact list built inside of MailChimp. You would, obviously, if this is a real segmentation funnel you're building for your real list. So you would have a field inside of MailChimp that would be called, in this case, it would be called quarterback. And then based on what they chose, whenever they submitted their lead and that information gets sent over to MailChimp, I would have their email address and which quarterback they chose. And then I could go through each of the rest of the questions and do the same thing. Running back, same thing. I would choose running back field, and then based on what they chose, have that running back name added to their record. So that when they submitted the end, I would get their email address, which quarterback they chose, which running back they chose, and whatever other questions that I put in here. Does this make sense to everyone, how this works? And you do the exact same thing if you're using, you do the same exact thing if you're using Ontraport, and the same thing if you're using Infusionsoft. You literally you add the custom fields, or if in Ontraport it's a little bit different, where you'll use tags that are already included in Ontraport, but it's the same idea though. Does this make sense to everyone? Cool. Perfect. I see a question here. This is actually good. I'll just answer this now. So Sarah asked, can you update your survey once the survey is published? You can update it, but you can't add elements. Like if this was already published and already had responses to it, I couldn't add a welcome page, but I could edit my welcome page. I couldn't add questions, but I could edit my questions. Does that make sense? So once you've published and you've gotten responses, you can edit. You just can't add value. You can't add fields. You can't add outcome pages or anything like that. You can edit the existing stuff. Anyways, I know that was a little off. So Ferris asked, just to make sure I understand, you can essentially assign tags to people in Infusionsoft based on their responses to particular questions. Is that correct? That is correct. So, in fact, in the Infusionsoft, if I had an account, I could show it to you, but I had a guy gave me the credentials to set it up. I just never did. But anyways, yeah, if you have Infusionsoft, there's a whole section here. Let me just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, if you have Infusionsoft, what you can do, in fact, if you, I think Ontraport is a little more similar than MailChimp. So let me go over here and do an Ontraport just so you can kind of get an idea. All right. Yeah, you see where it says tag questions and answers? So if you added a question, choose your quarterback, then you can either select one of the, so that's what you would do. You would select a tag that you have in Infusionsoft that would be perfect for this response. So if you had a tag called QB Eli in Infusionsoft, you would select that tag for this answer. And then you could do that. You can have as many of these tags, and you can have as many tags per response as you wanted to. Or you could literally just tag the question. So if you just wanted, if they answered the question, you just wanted to say something like, well, great, they answered that question, boom, you could just tag them as, that question. You're asking if you can add a tag that start adding tags to Infusionsoft. I don't think you can. And I'm almost sure you cannot, but you can do the fields. The reason why you don't want to do that anyways, I think, is you don't want some other app just creating random tags for you at will. You can go into Infusionsoft, you create the tag, the category of it, you name it the way you want it to be named. That way you can come in and find it inside of Bucket. I really don't think you want to have another app building tags for you, and I don't think you can, to be honest. So that's how you would do a direct integration. The next question, of course, is, how do I integrate using Zapier? Now, I know no one's ever had issues trying to figure this out, because this is the easiest part of Bucket for sure, right? No? Can I get no agreement? Really? All right, guys. So there's a couple of things that if you don't need to use Zapier, don't use it. Use the integrate. I've never heard you say that before, Chris. This is the first time I've ever heard you say that. So how do you do it? Like, how do you integrate with Zapier? Well, in a way, it really is simple. In another way, it's pretty difficult. So in the simple way, all you have to do is come over here, click on integration, and hit add new integration, continue with a test lead, hit login to accept invite, hit login again, and then create your Zap. And if you're not sure what Zapier is, it's a connector technology. It connects web software to other web software. So bucket.io is a web software. Your email marketing service is a web software. Zapier connects the two together, right? It sends the information that your person gives you in Bucket and sends it to your email marketing service so you can send them messages. So if you're using a segmentation funnel, which I believe we were over here, right? Yep. You would put new segmentation, and then you use your bucket.io account. If you don't know how to do that, if you haven't connected it, you just come over here, click on your face, or your name if you don't have your face added, and you'll grab this API key here, copy that, and paste it over here on the Zapier connected account. You'll paste it on this screen here, and you're off to the races. Yes, continue, and it stays saved. You only have to do this part once. You'll save and continue, and then you'll choose the segmentation funnel that you're working on, which we were on. I'm going to click back. We a copy of Madden. So you guys know I typically won't let this fly. One of the things that you definitely don't want to do is get over here inside of Zapier and have copy of Madden offense quiz. This is why I always tell people, change the name of your segmentation funnel to something you will instantly recognize specifically because of this, right? But we know now, I just went and looked. So this is the one we were working in. We'll do a fetch and continue, and hit continue. And then all you got to do is add your email marketing service. And And then for, like, let's say this one I just chose active campaign. What you always want to do is create or update a contact. Save and continue. I'm not even looking if you guys are typing anything right now because I know I'm going super fast. But what I just want you to see is that I just want to get you to the screen over here. What you want to do is on this screen here where you're actually sending the lead information over to, in this case, Active Campaign, or if you were using Drip or Aweber or whoever you were using, what you're going to be doing is, first of all, you'll choose the list, right, that you're going to be adding your leads into. It'll be, you know, the name of the list that you have on your email server. You'll come over here, you'll choose email for this email address. These are always required, right? And then you could choose for your name. You would come over here and choose name, or full name if you prefer to use that. You could come over here and add tags. The way that I typically do tags is on the outcomes. And we don't have that because we don't have the outcomes tagged over there. It doesn't look like. So what you'll notice here is that some of these, like you'll see how I have quarterback, receiver, and other things that are from this specific funnel, is I add a Zapier tag to each of the questions, right? So that I could send over whatever they chose and send that over to my email service provider. Now notice I didn't have one over on the outcomes. You always want to put a Zapier tag on your outcomes. Don't do like Jeremy. Because what this will let you do, even if you don't, oh wait, that's WC. Even if you don't capture every single response, if all you are to do is to capture the outcome so you know basically what bucket your person is in, then you can get that, you can capture that from the outcome page. So always, if you're using Zapier, always put a Zapier tag on your outcomes. I say put it on every question. I mean, you're asking them the question, right? So you might as well save it in your email service provider so that you can use it at a later date. But very least, always put a Zapier tag on your outcomes. And then what you can do over inside Zapier, actually need to, is it options, continue. I'm just going to get another lead from here so that it contains all the stuff that I just did since I made those changes. So what I was showing you earlier is for adding a tag, you could come over here and you see where it says outcome. Based on whatever outcome that they get from your segmentation funnel, that outcome, whatever bucket assigns them based on their choices, that's the tag that'll be here. So let's say the outcome was going to be air raid for this one. Well, air raid would get sent over to the word air raid. Whatever you have typed in on the outcome name, that will be sent over as the tag attached to this lead. Is this making sense to everybody? Okay. Chris has a couple of questions. He's crying as I speak. Oh, I'm guessing because of the lack of drip. That's okay, buddy. Have a napkin. Have a tissue. So you're asking, if you clone a funnel, do you have to integrate that clone, or does it clone the Zap as well? No, yeah. If you clone the funnel, you'll have to go create all new Zaps to go with the cloned funnel. So if you're cloning it and replacing another one, you can get rid of the Zaps on the other one, or just go into the existing Zaps and point them at the new funnel. Because that's something else you can do, is point Zaps at whatever new funnel you have running. Have you done most research whether people opt in more with just asking email or include a first name as well using the segmentation funnels? Honestly, it all depends literally on how much buildup you give them and how much value they think there is going to be at the answer. Because I've asked email and gotten squat, and then I've asked email, name, and a million questions in the segmentation funnel up to the point where I ask them, and I've seen 98% conversion rates. So it literally comes down to how bad do they want what's on that next page. It doesn't matter at that point. If they want it bad enough, you can ask them for their social security number and they'll give it to you. So that, guys, is how you integrate with Zapier. All right, and I think, yep, this is the last question that I have, and then we'll take some of yours. I know I've kind of been answering them along as we go. If you have any extra that I haven't answered so far, feel free to ask them. But this is one that this comes up quite a bit, actually. How do I actually use multiple lead capture pages? So let's do this. Let's jump back over here into, you'll do it on the build screen, right? So when you're adding your questions, you're adding your lead capture pages in. So notice this one just has the one lead capture. But let's see, on this one, I wanted to use multiple lead captures, So what we could do here is, what you'll do is you just come over and drag another lead capture page, and then when you do that, you'll see this list here where it says map outcome. This lead capture page will be shown depending on the outcome page. So what you do here is you come over and select an outcome that this page is going to go with. So on this one, we'll say ground and pound, right? So in this case, ground and pound means they like to run the ball. So we would say something like this. Oh, you like to run the ball, do ya? I've got the perfect strategy for moving the rock on the ground, and I'll send it to your email right now. Boom, right? So now we're before here, I'll show you what it said, what the other one said, just so you can kind of get an idea. Boom, boom, boom. Give me the strategy. Save the page, and I'll show you what the default one said. See here, we've got the perfect scheme for you. Based on your answers, we've created a custom video series that will help you dominate Madden 18 using your favorite playstyle. Which one do you think, if you just had to guess, would convert better? This promise of we've got the perfect scheme for you, or the one that literally addresses your play style and says, what you want to do, I got the perfect thing for you, right? This one just says, honestly, sounds kind of hypey. Oh, you got the perfect scheme for me based on the answers? I'm not saying this wouldn't work, not that it hasn't worked, but you guess which one would probably work better. Exactly, the customized one, right? And so what I could do here is make this more, if I wanted to make this one more for the air raid, I would do the scheme for throwing the ball, right? Because this person, if they got to this response, I know they like to throw the ball a lot. And so I would say something to the effect of, again, improving my conversions for getting them to actually fill in this opt-in page. And so all I did here is I chose the outcome, hit save, and then what I would do is I would come over here, since I've got 3, I would need one more, right? And then I'd come over here and make one for this last option, the West Coast option. And I would say something to the effect of West Coast, right? And then I'd hit save, and now I've got multiple lead capture pages for each one of my outcome pages. Does that make sense to everyone? Yep. Great. Perfect. So as you can probably guess, I mean, there's a ton of questions that come in every day, like just different ways of using Bucket. These are the ones that come in the most. And these are the ones that when I talk to people on the phone, the one-on-ones, these are some of the things that we typically work around. But like I said before, definitely want to hear if there's one that you have not seen that you have, you can feel free to ask it here. If you have an issue inside a Bucket that you would like somebody to walk through with you, I'm going to put the link to a one-on-one call or schedule for one-on-one calls in the in the chat. And does anybody want this link anyway? I mean, I don't know. There's probably about 25 of you. Does anybody want this one-on-one call link? Yes, for sure. All right, yes. All right, cool. Well, I will paste it in. And already scheduled. Okay. Hey, did you guys get it? I don't see that it went through. Did it come through? Did the link make its way into the actual chat? All right, here, let me try it in this other one. There's a couple of different ways to put stuff out to you guys. How about that? Awesome. Charles, do you see it? Cool. Greatness. So yeah, if you've never taken advantage of one of those one-on-one calls, I think they're pretty awesome. It's literally you get someone, it's not a phone call, it is a Zoom meeting where we can walk you through whatever issue you're having. I mean, even if it's just, hey, take a look at my survey, or hey, take a look at my segmentation funnel. There's nothing too small. If it's just looking something over and just making sure you're on the right track, there's nothing too big. I literally helped somebody work out, I don't know, probably the most complex segmentation funnel the other day. And we got it done quick. It was 15 minutes in and out. It would have taken her weeks to try to figure out on her own, but since I've done it a billion times, we were able to move through it really quickly. So there's two. I think if you go through the survey for the segmentation, the survey for the one-on-one call, on the last page, I think it gives you two options, a PM and a daytime package. The PM, I think, goes as late as 7 p.m. Central Time, maybe even a little later. I haven't looked lately, but we've got a kind of evening shift and a daytime. And you're welcome to choose whichever one you like. You're totally welcome, Charles. So we got about 5 minutes. I'm more than happy. If you guys have a question that we didn't address, you're totally welcome, Ferris. If there's a question that you have that you want to make sure you get the answer to and you don't just have time for a one-on-one call, then you can ask away here. I've got, like I said, I'm willing to keep hanging out as long as you are, or if you guys want to get out of here. I just want to tell you this. Thank you for getting on these webinars. Thank you for letting us continue to teach you how to use our product, right? We want you all to be successful with this stuff. We actually want you to eventually not even have to think about Bucket because it's just running in the background, generating your leads, so you guys are running your business, right? But we do appreciate when you get on and allow us to kind of keep teaching you how to use this system and work for your business. But other than that was all I had for the frequently asked questions. I think what we're going to start doing, and tell me if you guys think this will be helpful to you or not, we're going to start doing a series where we go through and build a segmentation funnel one step at a time per webinar. So we'll have the beginnings of planning and creating a segmentation funnel, then doing all the mapping and the variations and the branching logic in another webinar. Basically, we'll go through an entire build over the course of like 3 or 4 weeks. We're also going to have you start submitting your stuff that we can look at and kind of pick apart on our webinars as well. So you think you guys would like that? Cool. Awesome. Guess who came up with that idea? Not me. You guys did, from all these surveys you've been filling out. Finally got it. Ferris says, "What is the latest date I can schedule a one-on-one? Does the offer expire?" Here's the thing. They don't expire. Here's the thing. Here's what I would do. I would just schedule it. Just so no matter where you're at in the process, even if you're not finished with it or done with it, even if you only have one question added, or not even a question, you just have an idea, I would go ahead and do the call, honestly, because I think you can get more out of that 15 minutes for this part of your business to get it out of the way than you would sitting there trying to figure anything out on your own. So if you're even on a trial, especially if you're on a trial, but if you've paid even $1, which most trial people I think have, I would be getting on as many of these one-on-ones as I could. Honestly, if it was me, I'd be taking them all. Every week I would do one. I know some of you, I'm not naming any names, but I know there are people who figured that one out. Who take advantage of that. I see you there. Not saying anything. Anyways, I think you've probably shown up more times than I have. All right, guys. It's 4:58. You guys are totally awesome. I love getting on here and helping you out as much as I can. I see that there's so many people doing so many cool stuff with Bucket. I just want to make sure that everyone has that same opportunity. And so we're going to keep cranking these webinars out, and get everyone to where they're using this thing successfully. And we're totally here to help. If you need anything else, just let us know. One more question. When will the recording become available? How do we access it? So we put the recordings up typically within a day or two. Anytime you want to access one of these webinars, click on the help. I just clicked on help at the top. And then where it says webinar replays, and you can get access to all of them. There's some really good stuff in there. So that's how you'll access it. But we will email it. I mean, you'll get an email that says, hey, replay's up. But if you don't get the email and you want to come in here and just kind of get some insight on some stuff, this is where you'll do it. All right, ladies and gents, I am out of here. Have a wonderful evening. And if we don't talk before next time, well, have a great week. Oh, and if you celebrate it, happy Halloween. See ya.